Welcome into Overtime, presented by McDonald's. Dewey, Dailey, along with John Bruce for today's show, episode 29 of the show, creeping up on 30. We got a little holiday week episode. Maybe thought about taking a break this week, but we've got some stuff to talk about. There's some games coming up at the end of the week, so it made sense to come in on Sunday. This won't be uploaded until Tuesday, but it made sense to come in on Sunday and talk about everything that happened in the past week. We had some classics and some other showcases over the weekend and throughout last week, and we actually have some holiday ones coming up this week, as well as some big non-league games, as a lot of teams do start league play, maybe not this week, but the following week, as it's sort of a half week for a lot of the teams. But some milestones reached last week, some big wins for some teams last week, and we're going to talk about them here on this most likely shortened episode, but we'll see. It could end up being an hour and a half, but who knows?
We'll see. But yeah, there were some really big performances last week and some really good games that maybe some people didn't realize, because I think, the SOC isn't starting league play until January. The SVC only played one league game this past week, and a couple others. I think most leagues weren't playing on Saturday this week, as I spent all day up at Logan with P. Floyd up there, and then with Coach Bradley also from Waverly. Got to watch a game with him, which was nice to be able to just sit down and talk with the coach. But yeah, we're doing this on Christmas Eve, and I'm getting ready to get in the holiday spirit by watching a fun family film called The Iron Claw. If you know anything about that story, you know that I'm probably going to be depressed going into Christmas. But then we got some It's a Wonderful Life and stuff coming out for me to enjoy later on. Have you ever seen that?
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Is that one of the black and white ones?
Yeah.
Didn't we talk about this last week?
Probably.
Maybe?
I don't know.
I know we finished up the episode
we
with like a half-hour discussion about Christmas movies.
Yeah, we kind of... Okay, so 2 weeks ago we did it at, 1 a.m. is when we did this. And then I think last week was like a normal time. And then this week is 9 a.m. So we're all over the place.
Yeah, our recording but the upload days are
pretty consistent.
Pretty consistent, even if we do it at 1 in the morning the night before or the day of. Now, remember last week we did it on Tuesday.
Yeah,
and then
that's what it was.
So we've been all over the place. But so we'll start with boys. Go through individuals, go through team performances, some upcoming games later this week. Do the same with girls. As always, timestamps are in the description down below. They make it a lot easier to jump around if you see something you like and don't want to listen to us talk about other stuff, which we tend to do a lot of.
Yeah, and that's where I was talking to P. Floyd yesterday. He was like, I really like the timestamps. He mentioned that. So if you don't use the timestamps, check them out. You might like them.
They make it a lot easier.
And Dewdog over there does a lot of work on getting those worked out. I know that's your favorite part of this whole thing. I love going through and
finding all the timestamps. I've got it pretty nailed down to make it like a 10-minute process now. But there for a while, I was like just watching the whole thing through. But yeah, doing 2 episodes a week during the fall made me
that probably didn't help.
Change my process for that. So we'll start off with some individual performances for the boys. And remember, these aren't just single game performances. These are just maybe over a stretch of time with how short the season has been, maybe the whole season thus far. And for a guy like Jace Copley, it's pretty much been this entire season, right? He's dropped 30 bombs relatively consistently. They've played 8 games. I'd say he probably has at least 4 in his bag already. 2 this week. He had 1 against Northwest and 1 against South Gallia. 35 against the Mohawks, 37 against... What is South Gallia?
Rebels.
The Rebels, man. I got to get used to South Gallia because we're probably going to be covering them at some point coming up here in the new year. But 37 against South Gallia. Valley's 3-5. We talked about how they were going to have to hopefully eventually. We talked about how good that JV team was at least the games that we saw, and that we expected some of those guys to sort of take the pressure off of Copley a little bit, which I don't think has totally happened yet. And you got to remember, like for Copley, they've played 8 games. He hasn't played in 2?
2,
so like 4 out of his 6 games, he's had over 30 points. So it's still been it's been a lot of Copley so far. That's sort of what we've projected thus far going into the season. They do drop their most recent game one you saw over at Logan, 62-54, a tight one with Heath. Like I said, they're 3-5 going into the break. Their second game coming out of the break is at Minford. Now, they do have a warm-up at Adena, which
I think it's the 30th. I think it's
Well,
Saturday.
that one is the 30th, but for Minford, that one is on the 5th, and it's at Adina and at Minford. So two sort of tough games coming out of the break for Valley. I mean, we know what Adina is, and they obviously have a lot of good players as well. So it'll be interesting to see sort of how those teams match up and sort of how they go at a guy like Jace Copley. I mean, when you look at, just for us, when you saw sort of what they did to like Landon Jarrell in 3 quarters, he did find himself open in a lot of space. I feel like a lot of the stuff Jarrell was getting open on was more like created by other people.
Right.
Where like with Copley, he usually is doing stuff on his own. So I think it's a little bit different for Copley than it would be for a guy like Jarrell who had like 18 in like 3 quarters.
Yeah,
or
like
whatever.
2.5 quarters. Yeah.
Yeah, Copley definitely one of the better shot creators in our area, and I think Adina and at Minford isn't the most desirable schedule coming out of the break, but we'll see what they can do. Obviously, with the SOC3 not starting league play until January was something we felt could favor a team like Valley, but I'm not sure if they're as a total team right where they want to be yet, and opening up with probably the league favorite. You can go back and forth with Minford and South Webster, but opening up at Minford probably isn't the best way to start off league play, I would say.
Yeah, not the most ideal. Now, I don't want to, it's not like the NFL where you're playing to get into the tournament or anything, but it's almost a must-win for both teams when they play Adina, as Adina's kind of gotten off to not the start I think they envisioned. And then for Valley, when you're getting ready to go into SOC3 play, wins might be, harder to come by with how ridiculously loaded that league is. And, it's that's going to be a big game just because, both teams are going to need a win, especially going into 2024. But Copley got some help last night from Brennan Weiss. He had over 20 in that game against Heath. Really played well. Overall, they have to find some consistency on getting that help because, like Heath, they swarmed Copley everywhere, and he still was close to 20 points on the night. But when you're playing those teams that are really well coached, and like you're going to see in the SOC3, it's like these teams are going to have different ways of trying to take away Copley, and if he's trying to run off screens and whatnot, because they have some really good plays to get him the ball, but he's probably going to have different guys around him. So teammates have to make some shots to free that up for him. And that didn't happen until later in that game last night. But I was impressed with what Weiss brought. I like the athleticism that their team brings, and I think that they've got a chance to win some games, but they got to get started pretty soon.
They do have a lot of winnable games coming out of the break outside. I'm not saying they can't beat Adina or Minford, but those are probably the least winnable out of their games coming out of the break. After Minford, they have Portsmouth West, who I think they can beat. They're at Wheelersburg, which I think Wheelersburg is a little better than we originally thought. I'm not sure what they're currently 5-1.
Yeah.
So they've been great to start the year. And then after that, a couple winnable games: Raceland, Paint Valley. I think I can't speak for Raceland, but
Raceland's solid.
Wait, was Raceland who Webster played?
Yeah,
okay,
they're solid.
That would probably be a bit tougher for Valley.
Where's that game at?
Raceland.
Okay.
So that one might be a little tough, but then they have Paint Valley. After that, it's Waverly, a game we could end up being at. 'Cause that's sort of an attractive looking game. I think those teams are relatively even, and I've been impressed with Waverly, who I'll save because we'll talk about them in a second. But we'll see what Valley does coming up here in the sort of the season really isn't split in half between like 23 and 24, but I feel like it's just cliche to say the second half of the season. But
because really once after Christmas, you almost say you're in the second half.
Yeah, but it's more like you're in the
You're
really in like that. The pre-New Year is really just like the first quarter, so you're kind of in the second quarter of the season. But we'll move on. We'll talk about Eli Roberts for South Webster. There's not a whole lot. Well, there is a lot to say, but there's not a whole lot of dispute. This dude has been absolutely insane for the Jeeps. He had 32-9 over Raceland down in Ironton. I watched that game on my town. I was impressed the whole time. I think he's averaging like 25.5 points or something to that effect. Tyler Summer has been great as well. I mean, I forget the Timothy kid's first
Jack
name,
Timothy,
but
yeah.
I mean, he's been great. So, and I know in the preseason we picked Minford, and I still would hold strong on that. I think, what is the date on the Minford South Webster game? It's like the 20th, isn't it?
I think that's what
It
was
is. Oh, no, it's the 9th. It's the
Oh,
9th,
yeah,
so
because
it's very, very soon.
Yeah, because that was part of their schedule coming up.
Yeah, it's very soon, and it's at Minford. We will,
Try
if
to
we
get
can, 100% be at that game.
Yeah.
As I think those are probably the top two. Well, in my opinion, there's no dispute. Those are probably.
Right.
I mean, gosh, I don't know, man. Waverly's been tearing it up, so we'll see. We may be riding high on them, but I mean, they've been impressive so far. But for South Webster, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, so just kind of the thing with Roberts coming into the year was like just a maturity thing, because some things happened last season and we weren't sure on the growth, but man, he has grown individually, and I think a lot of that's going to go to like the coaching staff with Coach Pearson, and getting figuring some things out, and a lot goes to Eli too, because he's definitely evolved, and I think he's evolved his game as well, as he seemed to be settling a lot for outside shots last year, but like in that Raceland game, he was doing it from all over the court. He did shoot 7 threes in that game, but he was 3 of 7. He was 5 of 7 from 2, and then he was 13 of 13 from the line. Like you mentioned, averaging 25.5 points a game, almost 10 rebounds a game. He's also shooting 88% from the free throw line. It's just he's such a tough matchup because he's 6'7". He can handle the ball a little bit. He also blocks around 2 shots a game. So, I mean, it's just he does so many things that can impact a game with his length and ability. And I've really liked the way he's evolved, not only his game, but personality wise as well. And it's a really good thing for the Jeeps. And like you mentioned with Tyler Summer, Jack Timothy comes off the bench, but man, against Raceland, he played almost the entire game because Raceland had some really good size, so he matched up inside against some of them, and he's averaging 11 points, 4.3 rebounds a game off the bench. So that's pretty good. I think that's kind of a matchup thing on how much he's going to play at times. And Owen Malt was also out in that game, so without him, they were still able to beat a pretty solid Raceland team, who I think is 4-4 at this point. But Webster's schedule really ramps up coming up as they face Fairland, a game that we'll preview coming up here on the 30th. So this week, and then next week they'll face Vinton County at home and Wheelersburg in the first week, and then, as you mentioned, Dewey, going to Minford on the 9th. So their first 4 games out of the break are extraordinarily tough. But
it's like 3 losses between those first 4. I think Minford has 1. Benton County, I think, is still undefeated.
So it's 4. So Fairland's got 2.
Okay, yeah. So four losses. 4 losses between their first 4 opponents. So it's not going to be. And really, I mean, it's 6 through their first 5, with even Waverly only having 2. So it's
and then when we talk about Fairland, I mean, one of their 2 losses was to the Lindsley Academy, which was started like 6'9", 6'8", 6'5", and like athletes. That's a prep school that's
one
really
of you
good.
said Will Davis not playing.
Yeah, Will Davis
as
didn't
well,
play in the game. So, and their only other loss was to Ironton, who's only got 1 loss. So, and Wheelersburg loses to Harvest Prep, who's probably a favorite to get back to where I almost said Hara Arena, UD Arena over in Dayton for the state tournament. So, I mean, these are some really good teams. I think South Webster, they would tell you different, but I think if they go 2-2 through these next 4, they're probably going to be feeling, probably not ideal, but I mean, that would still be really impressive, especially for a Division 4 team.
One other player we're going to talk about, we have 2 more left for the boys. We talked about him last week, but I mean, dude just continues to impress. DeAndre Berry for the Trojans. They're off to a 6-0 start following their 77-69 win over the Providence Christian Academy at Ironton. I think those were some of the Saturday games.
Friday.
Oh, some of the Friday games.
So they were supposed to play Dayton Stivers because we kind of talked about that last week. And Stivers canceled like early in the week, and then a team canceled over at Ironton, so they were able to fill in, and the schedule kept getting updated, and I couldn't figure out where the update was even at, but it was that game alone. So it was really good work by Ironton to find them a spot in that.
And I know Carson obviously was down there for us, so if you wanted, to see sort of how the game played out, I think that may have. I'm not sure if my town streamed that one or not, since Ironton wasn't playing that day.
I think they did, because P. Floyd talked about that pass.
I was going to say, I might have to go look back and watch it on there, because those guys had to have been going crazy when that happened. But if you don't know what we're talking about, you can actually look on our Twitter page, SOSA Overtime. I retweeted it. DeAndre Berry threw a behind-the-back pass from corner to corner, the entire length of the baseline. And if you watch it, just nicked the bottom of the net. And then, of course, the dude on the other side absolutely just drains the three.
Yeah, it's I feel like...
And it was clearly still a relatively close game when he did it, because they only won by 7, but man, won by 8. So, gosh, man, that play was crazy.
But that's... And I mean, this is a Portsmouth team that didn't win a whole lot of games last year. Barry was really good last year, as he's closed in on 1,000 career points. But you can just tell the confidence that team has to, he knows he's got a shooter on that other side who just buries a 3 after that ridiculous pass. So not only is he averaging, you have 27 points a game, he's also averaging 4 assists a game too. So I mean, that's what do you do with that?
Right.
Oh, you sell out on stopping him. Well, he's just going to find his teammates, maybe in a ridiculous pass.
Yeah,
but
that was crazy. And really, for Portsmouth, I mean, a lot of the teams we've talked about have pretty strong schedules, which seems to be the case for most teams going into January. They're at Wheelersburg on the 29th. Then they have Chesapeake. Then it's at Ironton versus South Point, Linden McKinley, and then at Minford, which could be an interesting game to look at. But some defining games coming up for Portsmouth, and I think those will be interesting to watch. But nonetheless, a great start for DeAndre Berry and the Trojans. 6-0, chance to go 7-0 when they take on Wheelersburg right before the new year. So then we'll wrap it up with South Point's Caleb Lovely, a big performance Saturday night at Logan in the 70-65 win over Uniota.
Yeah, that was a high-level game, and I know the Uniota people were a little down after, because they felt like they should have won the game, but it was the best game that I've seen them play. I've seen them 3 times. That was the best game they've played. Even defensively was the best game I thought they played, and they gave up 70 points, but that's kind of the pace that South Point plays at. And Caleb Lovely had 27 points. I think he had 14 at the break and 15 after 3. And a lot of those last 12 points were down the stretch when anytime they needed a basket, they were going to him. The left-hander was getting in the paint. He was just making tough shots. And, there was a couple of plays where, Zeke Shoblock did a good job on him, and he would just get the shot off just a little bit above. And just his shooter's touch is just next level. And being left-handed makes it a really tough matchup overall. And then if you foul him, he's going to make his foul shots too. So he is why, South Point is 4-2 and, are feeling pretty good after, a couple of tough losses to start the year against a solid Lancaster team, and then losing to Ashland Blazer, which I think is a good team. I think it's a really big school, but sometimes when you're across or you're outside of the country, and Kentucky and West Virginia, we're not 100% on some of these schools, but he was a first-team All-Ohioan a year ago when they made a run to the Elite Eight. They lost one player to transfer who actually had 27 over at Ironton on Thursday in the game before I got there. But Carter Smith scored 18 in that game. Most of that was in the third quarter. And then Josh Childress came off the bench with a big 9 for them. And, I liked what I saw out of them. They tightened some things up defensively. And, it was, a couple of, one play here or there was going to make the difference in that game. And South Point made one more play, and partially because Caleb Lovely is just so tough.
All right, so we'll talk some standout performances. We have three on tap for the boys. We'll start with the Fairfield Lions, who are out to an 8-0 start, coming out of now in the Shack one after making the flip with Peebles. They interchanged, which I think they've done before, but Fairfield moves to the Shack 1, Peebles to the Shack 2. As you have written down, the Lions have won 32 consecutive regular season games. Larkin Friend averaging a double-double for them. I mean, it's been a pretty awesome start for Fairfield.
Yeah, 32 regular season games going back to February 11th, 2022. So
it's pretty good.
Yeah, going an entire calendar year without losing's not the easiest thing to do. And Fairland still has one more tough one left, or Fairfield still has one more tough one left to try to get through that. But, really impressive start for them. You mentioned Larkin Friend, 15 points, 10.4 rebounds, 5.7 assists, and 2.4 games. He's also knocking down 39% of his threes on the season. He posted a rare triple-double in their win over West Union, 13 points, 10 boards, 10 assists, and 5 steals. And it's not just a one-man gang over there. It's, you got Trey House, 10.7 points a game. Gabe Fouch, 9.3. Chase Newman, 8.8. Logan McIntosh, 8 points a game. And then Cade Miller with 6.7 points a game. And I think he scored 15 the other night. So they're a team that they play fast, and they're also going to play pretty good defense. And they're going to be one of those D4s that's going to be really fun to watch. And speaking of that, they have a really tough matchup against a really solid Federal Hocking team on Saturday at Alexander, which we'll preview also. But that's a Fed Hock team that, if you look at their last two scores, maybe you don't think they're as good. But Marietta and Warren are two of the better D2s in our area, and Fed Hock going out of their way to schedule up
D4 on D2.
Yeah.
And then, for Friend, he's fourth in the entire Shack in points with 15 per game, and he's leading the Shack in rebounds with 10.4. He's the only player in the Shack averaging double-digit rebounds.
And he's a point guard.
He's been doing it all. Yeah.
Yeah. So, last year he led the Shack in assists, and this year...
Oh, and he's also doing that as well with 5.7.
So he's just doing a little bit of everything, and we talked off-air about, Peyton McGee, that she graduated last year for the girls team over at Fairfield. When she was a junior, she wasn't the number one go-to scorer or anything, so she did a lot of little things. And then as a senior, when it was her team, she really took over, did a lot of scoring and whatnot. And that feels a lot like what Friend's doing on the boys' side, as he was a very important part of that team that went unbeaten and lost in the district finals last year. But this year it seems like it's his team. Now he's got some really good teammates in there too, but and he's just doing a little bit of everything to keep them unbeaten so far.
All right, then we'll talk about a team in the SOC3, the Minford Falcons. They take down Afrocentric in the Ironton Classic. What else is there to say? Only lost so far to New Albany in the battle in the 7-4-0 Classic down Shawnee State. They've had some guys step up this far for them.
Yeah, and I don't know if Afrocentric's as good as normal, but man, they got a lot of guys back from last year that went to the Final Four and lost at the buzzer, or didn't get a shot off at the buzzer. I think they lost by 1, maybe 2 in that game to Otto Glansdorf. But Afrocentric still has some really good players and still is really well coached. And I'm not sure the last time, if ever, a Southeast team beat Afrocentric. So
they won by 10, didn't they? Double digits,
18.
Wasn't it? Or 18.
71 to 53.
I know it was a little. That doesn't really represent the game. It was a little closer than that, but
it was 8 to 10 most of the game, and they kind of pulled away a little bit as Miles Montgomery scored 26 in the win. Bennett Kaiser had another outstanding performance, and his dunk to end the game was hilarious. If you get a chance, seek out that video, because it was My Town had that one as well, and it looked like they were just kind of running the clock out, and Troy Rhodes just shuffled him the ball, and he dunked it over.
Whatever.
Yeah, he dunked it over 2 dudes, and it was.
I got the
Yeah. So, like, afterwards, which we're going to have the video here in a minute put in.
So a 71-53 win for Minford over Afrocentric. Bennett, 21 points. I had you 14 rebounds. You might have had a couple more. How are you able to impact a game in a variety of ways like that tonight, and kind of like what we saw over at North Adams also?
I just do whatever I can to get the team to win. Like, if they need me to score 20 points or they need someone else to score 20 points, we can make those extra passes. If they need me to rebound and only score like 1 point, I'm just going to do what the team needs and make sure we get the win. That's all I'm here for.
And Jeffrey had you for 8. You had 6 late in the game. How nice was it to be able to get on the score book like that? And then especially when you're able to, those were kind of some big baskets when you guys are pulled away.
Yeah, it was nice. I'm usually not the one that scores a lot, but I try and just play my role and help the team to win any way that I can.
And then, Miles took over there late, 13 of 14 from the free throw line. How nice is it to have a point guard that can finish like that? And also, we had 6 assists, so finding guys as well.
It definitely takes a lot off of us because he catches the ball on the press. He's a one-man wrecking crew. He just goes to court, full length. He never gets tired. He's been doing that our whole lives. Played with him my entire life. Didn't matter if he was playing up or playing down. We were always be able to break a press with Miles. And just his leadership is just unmatched. I've never seen a kid lead like him, and he's just a great player.
And Jeffrey, Troy had 6 points in that second half, had a couple of big plays as well. What do you guys bring as seniors to this lineup as, maybe you don't get as much press, but, obviously huge parts of this team?
We try to bring leadership every day in practice, on the court, in the games, and we always try to bring the energy. And we just try to play our roles. We might not score as much as the others, but we play defense, we rebound, we play hard, we try and help the team any way that we can.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Have a good Christmas. Good win.
The interview I had with Kaiser and Jeffrey Pica after they had to wait like 5 minutes because there's all kinds of kids from Ironton there that wanted to take pictures with Kaiser because of that dunk. And, they kept talking about it before, and I was like, this is pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, he had a big time game, just another double, and he's so good. Mm-hmm. And then you got Miles who's going to score a ton and can do so many different things for you. Oh, and then you got Jackson Shoemaker, big body that can step outside. Yeah. Pica had 8 in that game, which was, he was driving hard to the basket, getting some baskets in that. Troy Rhodes had a really good game overall. And then
Cade
Glockner comes off the bench.
And there's a 6 guy.
Yeah, gives us some good minutes off the bench. And I think, no promises because it's up to you, but we're going to try to put my audio interview in with Miles Montgomery. So if it's not coming up, that's technical difficulties. All
right, I'm here with Miles Montgomery, MVP tonight over at the Ironton Classic. I had you for 26 points and six assists also. You put the game away late, 13 of 14 at the free throw line. I bet you're not real pumped about missing the free throw, right? But what have you done throughout your life to get yourself ready, especially because you're handling the ball, running around the whole game, energy-wise, to be able to do that?
I've always kind of been an energizing kid, just running around all over the place. So I knew I just had to be able to get the ball and take care of the ball in big moments. I had some turnovers down the stretch, but I got to just get better at that and take care of the ball.
Mm-hmm. Then, for you guys have played New Albany. I know you guys lost that game, but you play North Adams and you play Afrocentric. How much is that schedule getting you ready for league play to start after the new year?
It's big time. I mean, we got to play really good teams if we want to be a good team. And all the pressure and stuff, it's really good, and it's what we need to be better at.
Mm-hmm. And then, Bennett has that big dunk at the end. How valuable is he to what you guys do just overall on both ends of the court?
Oh, he's a special player. I mean, you can't have another guy like him. He's just so lengthy, and he's so good in there, getting rebounds, finishing. I mean, the growth he's had since 8th grade has been, unexplainable. I mean, he's been in the gym working, and it's just great, and he's a really big piece of this team.
Then Jackson, big body inside, can knock down the 3. He gave you guys 10 points tonight, but he provides all kinds of little things for you guys as well, right?
Oh, yeah. He's a big boy in there, and he does his job perfectly. He plays his role great, and when we need him to get a bucket, he gets a bucket for us, and he's getting better at finishing inside. And when he starts finishing consistently, he's going to be really, really good.
And then, lastly, the guys that maybe don't get as much, press or anything, Jeffrey, Troy, and Kate, talk about what they provide for you guys as a team to help you guys be able to do the things that you do.
They all play their role perfectly. I mean, Troy, when we need him to go get a bucket, he gets a bucket. Same thing with Jeffrey. Kate does a really good job coming in. I mean, those guys are the guys you need on the team to be a good team. They come in, they do their job, and they do really well.
Mm-hmm. And then, you got a bunch of guys coming up, don't get to play as much, but how valuable is it to have teammates that are going to work you guys hard every day in practice as well?
It's awesome. The guys like them are how we get better. And in practice, them crawling up in us and making us mad makes us better.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
But so after this, I do want to throw out that in a game that I'll preview too, they play Westfall at Circleville on Thursday as well.
Yeah. And like you said, you'll talk about that here in
Yeah.
a second. One other team we will talk about, we've talked about them a lot, and man, I got to say, they might be one of my favorite teams right now. Waverly Tigers out to a 6-2 start, 2-20 a season ago, already with 6 wins this season. They continue to impress, right? They're off to a 6-2 start, a win over probably the favorite right now in the SOC2 in Northwest, 60-50, so they win by double digits. Caden Ibert has been huge for them as sort of the main returning piece, and then, probably one of the more, I would say it's fair to say that, a freshman class is more times than not going to be less impactful for boys than it would be for girls. So for Waverly to benefit from their freshman class as much as they have thus far, early in, usually I feel like a freshman class would pay off towards the end, but this is early season stuff that's paying off for them, and they're off to a 6-2 start. The Myers brothers, not the Morton. What's 13?
Oh my gosh. That's so bad. Landon Russell.
Oh, yeah, Landon Russell's been big for them. Morton's a sophomore, I believe.
He's senior.
Oh, he's a senior as well? Okay. I must have. SO, sort of
you're
similar.
Good.
But, man, those three specifically, I believe they had one.
They had another one that stepped in, and then they have another one on the roster as well. And then they have a really good 8th grade group too, which is.
I would say Waverly is definitely on the upswing from
Waverly
last
could
year,
be at the end of this year, and then really at the end of next year, because it's for freshman guards, because it's going to be a freshman guard coming in. It might take a little bit. From what I've heard, is it may not take a little bit, but man, I think after next year, you better get them now while you can, because that's a loaded team. But yeah, Landon Russell had 15 the other night against Northwest. Check it out on our YouTube page. Which I think you're on to watch this anyway. But Russell had 15, and then both the Myers twins had 8 apiece in that game, and that's huge. And then Jameson Morton hit a couple threes early. Weston Bloss was really good
from Piketon's been big for him as well.
Yeah, he was really efficient in that game. Knocked down, I believe he was 3 for 3 in the game. Coach Bradley last night told me they only shot 28 times. They were 20 of 28 in that game.
Well, they did sort of have a dead period.
Yeah,
I think it was sort of in the middle quarters where they sort of let because I think Northwest cut it to 4.
They cut it to
point.
5. I think was the closest. It was up to 17 at one point. They got it down to 5, and but then the Tigers were able to.
Well, with the Myers twins, they definitely had a pretty clear size advantage. While it may not have been an age advantage, they're a lot bigger for Waverly. So
and then Northwest really gets after you defensively, and so I think that was really good for Waverly to see, because I thought they did really well late in that game against it. It was late in the 3rd, early 4th. They were not doing very well on it, but it seemed like they kind of grew up a little bit. And made some big time plays there, because even the seniors, they didn't play on that state team from 2 years ago. So last year would have been it, and obviously that didn't go very well. So they're still getting used to winning as well. So it's a really impressive start, for Coach Bradley over there. They play at Piketon on the 29th. I feel like even though Piketon's off to a slow start, that might be the most packed Piketon High School has ever been, because
usually they don't fill up the top
tops.
sections.
Yeah, but I read somewhere that they have not played at Piketon since the 60s. Yeah,
It's kind of hard to believe.
Yeah,
with how close they are.
Yeah, so that's going to be a big one for Pike County. So it should be, and they play good basketball. Well, here in Pike County, because this is where Studio 33 or McGillicuddy Studios, whatever it is. But yeah, it's and for Waverly, it does get tougher. Maybe tougher. They've played a tough schedule too. So I mean, their losses are to a good Jackson team and then a surprising Hillsborough team who's been
better.
Really good. With 6 straight league games coming out of the break or after the Piketon game.
Piketon,
with West, Wheelersburg, Webster getting the W's out of the way. Well, yeah, Valley and Minford, and then they got West again. So I'm excited to see what they do, and like we kind of talked about on the broadcast, like their jump from game 1 to game 8 was very impressive, and to do that because they played a bunch of games in a short amount of time, so it's not like they're getting practice reps.
Right.
They're doing it in games, and it's just really impressive. So
I was gonna say, I don't know if Connor Lentz recorded a steal, but the dude forced 5 turnovers in
I had
a
him
quarter.
for 3,
3.
but yeah, he was. Yeah, I don't know how many officially he got, because some places will tell you a steal's different than others.
If you force a turnover, it's a steal.
Yeah,
because I don't know how many times he actually had possession of the basketball, but there were a lot of times he forced dudes to dribble it out of bounds or dribble it off their foot and it goes out of bounds or whatever. But all right, so we'll preview a handful of games coming up later this week. I believe these are all classic games besides Portsmouth and Wheelersburg. But we'll start on Thursday at Circleville in the Horizon Classic, I believe is what they call it up in Pumpkinville.
Yeah, this is going to be a cartoon handful because it's only 4.
A cartoon handful.
Yeah, because cartoon characters typically only have 4 fingers.
Oh, okay.
Not 5, like humans.
Yeah.
Dummy.
But it's Westfall and Minford, 6-0 versus 6-1. Only 1 loss between the two teams. Both have been pretty sharp to start the year. And, I'm not sure if they're the first or last. I'm assuming Circleville is probably the last
I would
game,
guess so.
I'm guessing this is I don't know how many games they're playing, but this is probably not the last one.
Yeah, and I'm going to look this up really quick just to see, I don't know exactly who else is even in this.
I'm assuming
it doesn't.
Logan Elm potentially is New Hope in it again. Or...
I don't have it on our schedule.
Oh, nice.
Shocked. But, yeah, so Westfall, this is a big-time proving game for them, as this will be the best team they've played so far. They played a really good New Hope team the other day and beat them by 7, but this, Minford's at another level, so this is going to be a really good test for them. Should be a really fun matchup between Miles Montgomery and Joe Ray, 2 of the better lead guards in our coverage area, especially at the scoring that they both could do. Ray had 20 in that game against New Hope, and he's had multiple 20-point games this year, averaging around 16 points a game for the Mustangs. Montgomery over 20 points a game for the Falcons. Brody Clark is averaging a little over 18 points a game for the Mustangs as well. A really good shooter. But here's the big question. Does Westfall have an answer for what Bennett Kaiser can do? Because Westfall has some decent size, but do they have the ability to keep him off the glass, to do so without fouling, because front court depth is not something that Westfall has a ton of. I like what Jerry Layton, Henry Barnes could do. I like what Brian Craig brings them off the bench, and it's a team that I like this Westfall team a lot. Mm-hmm. But this is going to be really I'm really interested to see how this game turns out, just to see where this Westfall team is, and especially with the SVC, because at the top of the SVC is Westfall, and they're unbeaten so far. Then you have Zane Trace is up there with them, and Zane Trace has 2 non-league losses. They are to really good teams in Circleville and Benton County, but still that's 2 non-league losses. Uniota is next at 2-1, but they're 1-3 outside of the league. they beat a really good Miami Trace team that's 6-2.
As of now, winning the FAC.
Yeah, and but then they lose to really good teams in Fairland and South Point and Jackson. So this is a good game for the SVC to like kind of show where they're at as well. So I think it'll be interesting. I like it being on a neutral floor as well. I love the gym. Over
Circleville has a nice gym.
Yeah,
we would go, but
yeah, right. Things happen. But then we also have another one that should bring a really big crowd to Wheelersburg. Is the 6-0 Portsmouth Trojans will take on the Wheelersburg Pirates, who are 5-1 on Friday. It's a big rivalry game, and then something else that'll be add a little bit to the rivalry is that Devin Lattimore is now a Pirate instead of a Trojan, and between him and Landon McGraw, they've gotten out to this really quick start. I watched them against Harvest Prep. I was so impressed with what the sophomores that Wheelersburg have, what they brought to the table, as they are not big. Like, that's the biggest thing for Wheelersburg. So, like, you see a score for Wheelersburg where they beat Western 64-60 the other day. But that's like a bad matchup for them because the best players for Western are
bigger guys.
Yeah, like, so where you might have had an advantage if you have the size advantage over Western, you're playing maybe the best guard duo in our coverage area between Haggy and Jane. So it's so Wheelersburg, maybe some of their results haven't looked real dominant.
Sort of a matchup based team. It's like no matter how good the team they're playing is, it just kind of depends how they match up with who they have. So if they're playing, like you said, more of a guard heavy team, they may fare a little better than if they're playing somebody that's 6'4" and can handle the ball and shoot. I mean, it's a little bit different, which, I mean, for Portsmouth, that might be a little tough with a guy like DeAndre Berry. I don't know how big Malachi Loper or Donovan Breach are, but like for Berry, we know he's bigger.
Yeah.
So I mean,
he's big, he's strong, he's quick, he's really good.
Pretty much exactly what Wheelersburg probably does not want to match up
against. He is a matchup nightmare. So, and then you mentioned Malachi Loper and Donovan Breach. Those two had really good games down at Ironton as well, and both are averaging well over 10 points a game. I believe both are around 15 points a game this year for them. So, should be a really good matchup. I'm excited. Like, it's one of the kind of like for Westfall. This is a game where we get to learn a little bit more about these teams. Yep. So I think that's, the fun thing right now is you get to learn. Right. I mean, both of us are on winter break, but we're still learning, and that's going to make us smarter. Yeah.
A couple games coming up at Alexander on Saturday. Thought about going down there for these games. They should be interesting. I think we're going to end up at Unioda Courthouse now. But one of the two, Fairland and South Webster, and then Fairfield and Federal Hocking. So I think all of those teams are D4, and then Fairland's D2.
They're D3.
Oh, Fairland's D3? I thought Fairland was D2.
Boys are D3. Girls are D2, yeah. So, Fairland and South Webster will be, I think that's the 3 o'clock game that day. And that's going to be worth the price of admission alone.
I mean, we'll see if Will Davis plays this week, and we're not totally sure.
So he had tweaked an ankle in their loss against Ironton, didn't finish the game, and then he was in a walking boot before the Lindsley Academy game. But what I was told was, seems like it's going to be a short-term thing, and I think they're hoping he can be back for South Webster. One of the big things in this game is South Webster's going to have a big advantage up front. Like Noah Markham and Keegan Smith do a good job for, Fairland, and I think they do a good job overall rebounding for their size. But man, Eli Roberts is a matchup nightmare. This is once again kind of just get to see where both these teams are. Dylan Schubert, they only had 4 people score in that game against Raceland, and Schubert was the only guard that scored. He only scored 2. So Schubert, Christian White, it's going to be a really good matchup for them just to see how they'll do against some really good guards in Chase Allen and Brody Buchanan. Buchanan brings that left-handed downhill. He's going to attack, and he can pull up from kind of anywhere. And then Chase Allen can score at every level. So this is going to be a fun matchup. I think it's a game that if you are in the area for Alexander, you want to make sure to get out and watch that one for sure. What I've been told is the Alexander Holiday Classic is very well ran. It's been at a variety of different places. I've watched games in that Holiday Classic that were played at OU back when they were allowed to play on college campuses. And then I guess they played at Wellston where there's a fellow that scored 40 in the NBA played like 20 years ago. Yeah.
We were just
LeBron.
talking about LeBron.
Yeah, they might have won by 100 over Wellston, but you know what? They got to play LeBron in high school. So, it's this Holiday Classic that they've played for over 20 years. This may be the last one, but if it is, it's going out with a bang with some of these matchups. You also have Fairfield against Federal Hocking, and really, I feel like based on the teams I've seen in Division IV so far, like South Webster is a little bit above. Now I haven't seen Fairfield, but
Above the rest.
Yeah.
You would say.
Yeah, South Webster seems like they've separated a little bit, but man, the other side of that.
I was gonna say, feels like D4 is in our coverage area is pretty strong this year.
Yeah, because
and obviously South Point, they're D4 as well.
They're D3.
Man,
Yeah.
tell you what, D3 and 4. I'm excited for the episode where we just fill out our little March Madness bracket for these two tournaments because man, those two are gonna be tough to go through.
Yeah,
you're gonna have 7 and 8 seeds that are
man. It's just you've got a lot of good teams. Maybe the bottom isn't as good, but the middle is good and the top is extremely good. Because Fairfield, Federal Hocking, I'm trying to think. I had some more in my head, like Eastern, Western. Those are teams that are.
Well, even and you're talking about Eastern Pike, but I feel like Eastern Brown has been I know Grady Barber's top 3 in the shack and scoring. So man, I don't know. We could obviously go through and pick out each team that's for us, Paint Valley's the only D4 in the SVC, I believe, and
they're D3 this year.
Oh, they're D3, so the SVC doesn't have any.
Yeah, their
D4.
competitive balance number bumped them by a lot. But yeah, they were D4 last year. Green was as well. Notre Dame.
I was going to say.
Notre Dame's solid to good, and
there's some other TVC Hocking teams.
South Gallia.
We will. I can't. Girls, we will 100% see at some point.
Yeah,
I think they play North Adams at North Adams, which we've found out is a pretty awesome place to go watch a game. So we might be down there for that. But.
Yeah, so this Fairfield and Federal Hocking matchup will be really fun to watch too, because we talked about Fairfield and all their weapons. Well, Fed Hoc might only have 2 weapons, but they might be 2 of the like we mentioned with Western, how Western's got a great duo. This is one of the better duos as well with Tariq Cottrell, who's a 1,000-point scorer. I think they list him at 5'10". He's not 5'10".
Taller?
No.
Shorter? Yeah, I was going to say, usually they don't undercut guys.
Yeah, he plays a little bit bigger, but man, he's so quick. He can get to the basket, both hands, and he can really shoot it from deep. And then they got Andrew Earhart, who's an elite shooter, and he gets, I don't want to pigeonhole him as just a shooter, but think of really elite NBA shooters with how
John Diebler.
we'll say with a John Diebler, how quick he could get a shot off. Andrew Earhart, if he gets any room at all, he's getting a shot off, and it's a beautiful shot. I was really impressed with both of those two. I knew those two were back from last year, but I didn't realize, I think because I watched Earhart from up above at the convo, but man, he can really play too. So I feel like that's going to be a really fun matchup. Should be a really good game.
A couple of good games coming up at Alexander. If you're in the area, get down to those. And obviously Westfall, Minford, Portsmouth, and Wheelersburg on Thursday and Friday as well. Should be a fun matchup.
Yeah, should be a fun week, and looking forward to coming out of a cabin and all refreshed from the Hocking Hills and ready to watch some good games.
And although we didn't preview it, the plan for Saturday is to be at Yoda, them in Courthouse, which I think is, at least for me, got a little more attractive. Originally, I was thinking Courthouse might run away with that, but after the Miami Trace and
Well, then how
Courthouse,
Uniola played last night as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
like a couple things also to add is like you have Zane Trace and Jackson playing this week, which
is that on Saturday as well? Seems like a lot of the teams are playing because, well, I guess Fairfield plays Federal Hocking on Saturday, but
just one.
I know Fairfield plays Adena at some point. I think that's on like January 6th, and their classic that they're doing. And then we also had.
It's actually on Wednesday. Is Jackson at St. Trace?
Okay.
Which will be like.
I mean, that makes sense.
It's going to be interesting to see how St. Trace does because Landon Gerald is going to be out for a little while, and hopefully he can get back as soon as he's physically ready because he
Did they announce it was a sprained ankle?
It's a really bad sprain. Not broken, but sometimes like you hear the
high ankle sprain.
Yeah, like that can be a
fantasy.
long time. Yeah. And like that night he was 5 for 6 from 3 and just like man, he was completely controlling that game. But when he goes out with an injury, Landon Robinson then just takes over. He had 15 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists in that game. So they're still built to win, but I'm interested to see where they're going to be at with that game. It's just a new wrinkle for them, and maybe it gets them better prepared for the tournament because you're going to have different guys having to step up, and if Gerald can get back for the tournament, then that's just going to make them a tougher matchup. And
I know Uniola obviously will be the first game of the second trip around the league. That will be at Uniola. That game is scheduled, I'm sure you know off the top of your head, but I'm looking for it. The 23rd of January.
Yeah,
so he has about 4 weeks to get right. So hopefully
he can, but also don't rush it.
And we'll definitely be, I'd say there's a 100% chance we'll be at that game.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But all right, so we'll jump to the girls now. Start off with a couple milestones for a couple of girls in our coverage area. The first for TJ Carpenter for the Jackson Iron Ladies, off to an 8-0 start, 5-0 in the FAC. Carpenter scoring her 1,000th point recently for the Iron Ladies, averaging 22 points a game this season, 6 rebounds as well. They sort of have a big three, it seems, with like Carpenter, Walburn, and Davis. All three of those are averaging 3 rebounds per game. Maddie Walburn also 13 points per game. Kenzie Davis 10 points per game. Off to an 8-0 start, like I said, so they've been great to start the year. Perfect through the FAC through the first time around. First game out of the holiday break for them is at Minford on the 28th. Nothing official yet, but the plan for us is to be there for that game. And then, like, really, rest of the season for Jackson, like, they have Uniola on February 7th. It's at Jackson, which is definitely beneficial to them. But, like, the rest of their schedule, I mean, they've got a really good chance to get out of the regular season with, they could go undefeated. But, I would say I don't see Jackson at the most having more than 2 losses, I would say.
Well, I think the Adena game comes down to if Garrison's healthy. I think, Adena is going to really compete hard with whoever they're going to play anyway. And then, if they're a different team this year with...
Well, they had a good showing against Uniola without Garrison the other day as well.
I was going to say with what Marley Halcomb brings to that team really helps. And it's a group that, they've won a lot of games, so they're going to be ready to play. But yeah, Jackson is really set up to possibly win 20 games of the regular season, if not more, which would be a great step for them. As it's a very senior heavy team. As they start 4 seniors and a sophomore, but it's a really good team. And TJ Carpenter's just, if you're averaging over 20 a game, and it's through 8 games, it's really impressive because it's not. I never scored 20 in a game, but scoring 20.
I scored 16 in a JV game once. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's about all. That's about all my basketball career amounted to.
Yeah, but you also didn't miss a 3 in that game, so
Yeah.
that's all that matters. That was great coaching to get you shots.
Oh, awesome coaching.
Yeah, to only get you that many shots too. But yeah, so really impressive for Jackson to start off, and the win against West, I think, just keeps looking better too to start the year, as they really put it on a really good West team. And West only has 2 losses, which was one was to them and one was to a really good John Glenn team that went to
Did
the
they end up
regionals.
losing to John Glenn? Okay, I wasn't sure.
A team that went to the regionals last year in Division II and returned a lot. So I mean, for West, I mean, I'm sure we're going to be talking about them much more throughout the season as well.
And one other player that reached 1,000 points recently was Lynchburg-Clay's Jade Massey. She got it done on the pitch for him, and now doing the exact same on the hardwood for the Mustangs.
Yeah, Massey's had an outstanding career. Obviously, anytime you score 1,000 points, but for Lynchburg, it's really a 3-headed monster with their seniors, and she's not their leading scorer because that's Addison West, who's averaging 14.6. I think West probably needs to average right around there to get to 1,000 as well.
Is she a junior?
She's a senior.
Oh, she's a senior?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then Massey Etienne will probably get there at some point this season as well.
That's wild
Yeah.
because I don't think they're winning the Shack right now, and they have 3 1,000 point
Right.
scores.
Yeah, they're currently tied at the top with North Adams.
Okay.
Yeah.
When
But
do they have they?
well,
they've
they
already
played the
at
first
North
one.
Adams.
Yeah,
didn't
they played at North Adams. North Adams won that game.
What was the? Wasn't it like
6,
a 9 point?
6, 8, 9, something like that.
That was like 49-40.
Probably something along those lines.
Potentially a chance to go see them play on the black court. I haven't been there
on the
yet.
blacktop.
Yeah.
It's 53-46.
Okay.
Of course, I said 6, 8, or 9, and it was 7. But yeah, so
we might have to look into that. I know we've had our troubles getting Shaction with the stranglehold
Yes,
that
yeah.
guys has on the Shack, but I don't even know who their AD is. I haven't tried to go to Lynchburg yet, so we might have to give that a shot.
I like the gym down at Lynchburg, obviously with the
What's the date on the
black floor.
second game? It's like February something or late January.
It's at some point. Let me find it.
Are you looking on our schedule?
No.
I was gonna say 'cause that's a mistake.
The 29th, which is a Monday, but
That's whatever. We can.
I mean we can work around it.
Yeah.
Like
That date's available for us.
Yeah.
The next day we were looking to go to Fairfield Union, but
Hey, let's go.
we
But
might have to get down there for that.
yeah, so I mean
Over there. I don't know
for
what
Lynchburg,
the name
they're off to a solid start. They still have a chance to win the league. 5-3 overall, I believe 6-3 overall because they beat Fairfield. That game's just not updated yet, but and 5-1 in the Shack. They've got what they want to do ahead of them. They beat Peebles the first time at Peebles, so they'll have Peebles at home, and then they've got North Adams at home. So if they take care of both of those games, they will be
hard part's over with.
Yes.
For their league schedule anyway.
Yeah, so I think they're going to be, and then they also like Whiteoak. Whiteoak's at home, so it's all of their tough games left in league play are all at home, which is always a good thing, especially when you've got that dark advantage of that court. But yeah, Massey on the year is averaging 13.5 points, 6.3 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 3.6 steals, and a block a game. She's just does so many little things. Addison West, 14.6 points, 5 rebounds a game. And then Etienne is averaging 9 points. Madison McMullen, 6.9 points, 5 rebounds. And then Ella Berry, another senior, 4.6 points and 4.4 rebounds. So they're a solid group down at Lynchburg, and I think one of their losses was Uniota. Kind of whatever.
Sure, at the end of the year that will be the case for
A lot of teams.
a handful of teams. So.
Yeah, so they had,
Is Lynchburg like a sneaky D2?
no, they're D3.
Are they D2 in like soccer or something, or are they D3 everywhere?
I think they're D3 everywhere.
For some reason I was thinking they were D2 in something, but maybe not.
Girls golf.
They're D2.
There's only 2 divisions.
Oh, well, that's definitely not what I was thinking of.
I know
but
it was.
I think it was.
Yeah, so they lost to Portsmouth West. I mean, whatever.
Got some strong losses.
Well, and then also all their losses are on the road. So lost at Portsmouth. Well, that game was neutral because that game was at Manchester. Then they lost at Uniota. Then they lost at North Adams. So, which I mean, they beat Peoples at Peoples, so they are 1-3 on the road. So a lot of their games have been. Well, I guess they beat Fairfield, so 2-3. So they play at Paint Valley coming up on Thursday as their next game.
Okay. Well, I'd say they'll most likely get out of Bainbridge with a win in that one. But all right, so we'll move on to some standout performances, and I reckon we can start with Circleville. They're off to a 6-0 start. Coach Bigham
With his red pants.
Yeah.
Getting the red pants out.
Gosh.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure on. They're actually 7-0 because I didn't update that
7-0.
after yesterday, but I wasn't sure on, what Circleville had because they beat Amanda 44-41 to start the year.
Amanda beat somebody. You go ahead.
I was getting ready to get to that. Is Amanda had just beat Bloom Carroll? Yeah. Like Amanda's 8-1. So like to start the year, they won a close game at Amanda. I'm like, oh man, Circleville might not be very good because Amanda was just okay last year, but yeah, 8-1's 8-1. So that's obviously a really good win.
Yeah.
With that being their only loss, I mean they beat Logan Elm, Hamilton Township pretty easily. Then they beat Tays Valley, who returned a lot from last year and was the favorite to win again in the MSL, one of the random non-S leagues. So I was going to say it wrong. But yeah, then Saturday, our Derek Webb was there and they played Athens. I'm like, this will be a good challenge. And they just housed them 62-37, absolutely dominated the game. And it's a team that, maybe some of us didn't expect to be as good as they are at this point. I thought, he wears red pants. They're well coached by a coach that wears red pants. Bigham does a really good job with them though. But yeah, it's a team that, they can do a lot of little things. Maddie Blakeman's outstanding for them. She had 19 points in their win against Athens. Gabby McConnell, 9 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. And Addison Edgington. Now, this might be the big difference. A 6'2 freshman. She had 21 points, 10 rebounds in that game. So, I mean, if you can bring that in, I think
6'2".
Yeah, I think that's going to give them an advantage as well, because that's going without mentioning Faith Yancey that comes back from last year, who's a really solid player and really good athlete. So I mean, they're a good team. They're off to a really good start, and I think we'll kind of get a better litmus test on where Amanda is when they face Uniota coming out of the new year. But so Circle 7-0 to start. And, Coach Bigham doing a really good job with them.
I will say, when I first saw the Amanda Bloom Carroll score, I thought it was boys, and I seriously almost went into cardiac arrest. I could not believe it.
Yeah, that was even then, Bloom's really good girls team, and I'm gonna pull up.
They had the Player of the Year coming back.
I'm gonna pull
Emily Bratton or Brayton.
Yeah,
I'm not
Bratton.
I mean, they're obviously really good, and is Amanda D2 or they? No, they can't.
They're
be
D3.
They might be D4. Gosh.
I'm gonna say this once again: the dumbest school in our area is Amanda.
Oh, they play in the Central.
They play in the Central. You go through Amanda to get to Fairfield Union, who's in the Southeast. Why is Amanda not in the Southeast? Try to get in the Southeast. You're gonna have more tournament success. It's just. No offense to our area, but you're going to have more success than in the Central.
Well, Bloom's in the Central.
Bloom's in the Central. So. I don't think they would try to get in because I think they're a little more centralized, but at the same time, I think they're going to be out of the MSL in 10 years. They just keep growing and growing.
Amanda?
No, Bloom.
Oh, Bloom, yeah.
Yeah, so here's
I'm surprised they're still there, to be honest.
here's the records in the MSL. I mean, you got Circleville 7-0, Amanda's 8-1, Bloom's 8-1. Bloom's point differential is ludicrous. 491 points for, 269 against.
Wow.
Yeah. But they have that one loss, and Taze is 5-3 overall, and Logan Elm kind of sneaky in there, 5-4, playing a lot of really young
I
kids.
think they went 3-19 last year.
Yeah,
so my prediction for them to have more wins is it's already hit. So
yeah. So,
there we go.
and then you got, I mean, Fairfield Union, who's not having, I think, the season they were hoping for at 1-7, but they've been really competitive in some of these games. So
Well, the Jackson game wasn't overly
no, and it
bad,
ended
was
up
it?
being a little uglier overall score than what it felt like throughout the game. But
Well,
yeah,
I know at halftime it was like single digits,
Mm-hmm.
which maybe you didn't expect for a undefeated team taking on I think they were like 1-5 or
yeah.
whatever at the time. But I mean, coming off, I mean, I don't remember what the record was last year, but they were like a 12 seed taking on Fairland, who made the Final Four in the district final. Who they were either winning at halftime or it was like tight. It was
Yeah.
tight like the whole time. Now I think Fairland ended up winning by like 15 or whatever, because that's just kind of the team they were and really still are. But
Right.
I mean, they like at halftime we're like, man, like this. I mean, now it didn't help that it got one-upped later by probably the best game we have on stream on
Yeah.
YouTube. But yeah, and like I don't think Thompson is playing this year, which I mean,
Makes a
pretty
big
much any
difference.
sport she's
Yeah.
gonna play, she's probably gonna be
a difference
at
maker.
least average
Yeah.
at, and so.
Yeah, so moving on to Whiteoak.
Yeah,
who's
Whiteoak,
out to an outstanding start.
Yeah, we just talked about them a little bit when talking about Lynchburg. They're on the other side of the shack. They're in the shack 1, leading that side. 8-2, 5-0 in that league. I'm assuming they've played every. It's hard to assume if they've played everybody on their side. Their record would make you assume that, but with league game, if you play other teams on the other side of the shack, it also counts as a league game. So it's kind of hard to guess like how
Right.
many of those games are against teams that are legitimately on their side that they'll play twice. Because I think they play, what would that be, 5? So it'd be like 14 or 15 or some weird amount of league games.
13.
Oh, 13, because it's 5 and 5. So you
Yeah.
play 8 in your side and then 5 once on the other side. But Whiteoak 8-2, 5-0 in the Shack 1. Jade Parr, she was our Shack Athlete of the Week, I believe last week. She's averaging 14 points per game. Kylie Ham averaging 10.7 and 10.7 points per game and 7.2 rebounds per game. Now, coming out of the holiday break, 2 of their first 4 games are Peebles and Huntington, which, like, I don't really care what Peebles' overall record is. Anytime you have to play, I mean, you could put
I know.
You could put Peyton Johnson. What was that really bad school? Oh my gosh, it was something with a B. I can't remember what it was.
Are you talking with her?
Well, I was just gonna say you could put her on like a 5U upwards team, and like playing them would still be awful because you have to play her. I know there are some other players for them that have contributed as well. I'm blanking on names right now.
Cadence Carroll. Oh my gosh.
But like, anytime you have to play a team with Peyton Johnson on it,
Abigail
it's
Smalley.
going to be tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Peyton Johnson averaging 20. Okay, I'm excited for this. 23.1 points a game, 9.3 rebounds, 6.4 assists, 7.1 steals a game. I enjoy her stats.
yeah, I was going to guess she's probably leading in. Yeah, all of those you just mentioned, leading the Shack in points by 7, rebounds by 1.5, assists by 3, steals by 3. They don't have her listed in field goal percentage or blocks, but I mean those,
Yeah.
she's averaging 23 points a game. So
I'm guessing that she also has shot the most free throws. Like, I know
her free throw percentage wasn't. What was it, like 67 or 8? I know it wasn't bad, but it wasn't. It was like
67.
Yeah, so it was like right around average. So I mean, I don't know. Fouling her might be the best option.
Yeah, she's shooting close to 9 free throws a game, about 8.5.
Yeah.
So that is your probably best option because like you might wear her down at that point.
Right. Especially late game.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's close. I mean, we saw them in Minford last year in the sectional final, and I feel like she was at the line pretty frequently in that one. Now, Minford obviously wins, but I feel like she was at the line a pretty good amount in that game too. But we're talking about Whiteoak here.
Hold on, let me pull it up. I will pull that up. Let me see. Hit 23.9 points a game last year. Minford, she was 12 of 15 from the line.
Yeah, so that was one of her better shooting. She's 80% from the stripe. So
Yeah, 24 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. They lost. So, okay.
I don't remember much.
24, yeah, because you were sick. 24 points, 7 assists. So that's at least 38. Day scored 42 in the game. Yeah, it was 46-42. So, and Minford did a really good job of, making her into more of a passer. But yeah, she's pretty good.
But for Whiteoak, I think the path to winning the Shack one is still pretty clear. Because they beat a lot of the teams that are in that side, right? They beat Manchester, they beat Ripley twice because the Shack they played
weird.
Ripley twice. Their second time playing them was December 16th, which is a pretty quick turnaround. I think I can't remember all who is on their side. I think Fayetteville Perry is on their side as well. They actually haven't played them yet.
That's my favorite part.
And then, obviously, with Fairfield, they've beat them once as well, beat them by 11. So, I think Whiteoak still wins. I don't think they go undefeated overall in the Shack. I think they go undefeated on their side in the Shack one. But, I mean, you have Courthouse coming out of the break. It's at Washington Courthouse. Then you have Peebles. Then you're at Fayetteville Perry. Then you have West Union. You have a couple games with East Clinton and Fairfield. Then you have North Adams, which I think could be tough. At Lynchburg-Clay won't be easy. They go to Hillsborough. I think Hillsborough's been playing a little bit better as well. So, and obviously Hillsborough's non-league, so that's not totally important when we're just talking about league play. But I don't know. I think White Oak still wins the Shack one with. I mean, they've already shown they can get through more or less the first half of like Shack one play going undefeated. So I think their path is still pretty clear for them.
Well, and then just going back a few years ago, like you probably didn't even want White Oak on your schedule because they were so bad. Like, yeah, it was going to be a win, but it was kind of like
you're not going to get any better.
Yeah, but now it's like that's a tough team on your schedule, and it's that's says a lot for what those seniors have done, like with Parr and whatnot, and what their coaching situation and their youth programs done to make them, they're going to be. I think they're going to have a pretty decent chance to get to the districts and win a Shack title as well.
Because White Oak is D4 as well.
Yes.
So that would be the likes of obviously Notre Dame, who's a powerhouse in D4.
Waterford.
Waterford, who's TVC Hocking, not exactly in our
South Gallia
coverage area. South Gallia could be a problem as well.
Yeah, so it's Sims Valley is in our area that we rarely discuss, but
that's one of the SOC1 schools.
The SOC2.
SOC2 now.
Yeah. So it should be. I think Waterford's going to have a chance to get to the district. It won't be the easiest thing, but you know what? Let's just keep getting better every day.
All right, so we'll preview a handful of games coming up this week on the girls' side. The first one, Fairland taking on Marietta. Not technically a home game for they're the Tigers, correct, for Marietta. Not technically a home game for the Tigers, but might as well be as they're playing that at a neutral side at Marietta College. So I'm not sure if anybody for Fairland is committed to Marietta or not. I'm not sure.
Kylie Bruce is going to Malone, and Brie Allen's going to Tiffin.
Okay.
Yeah, so not bad.
That's okay.
Yeah. So Fairland is very good. Mm-hmm. They are off to an 8-0 start. They are absolutely drilling teams. They're scoring over 70 points a game, and keep in mind that's 70 points a game. While they're barely scoring in the fourth quarter because they're not like it's usually a running clock. They beat a pretty solid Reynoldsburg team by 28. I mean, they beat a good Parkersburg team the other day by 15 over at Warren. So they're a team that is very good. They are going to play a Marietta team that is 9-0. They have not been as impressive in the point differential, but on max preps, which whatever this is the number 7 versus number 9 team in the state in Division II, just based off of their schedules and who they've played, whatnot. Like Marietta pounded Fairfield from the Cincinnati area 46-29 the other day. So they're a good team. Maybe they haven't played anyone to the level of Fairland yet, but I think it's, anytime you got to go pretty much on the road for Fairland, it's going to be a good test. It's just, I'm interested in seeing this game now. You mentioned Fairfield Union from a year ago. They actually beat Marietta Marietta was the 5 seed in
12, I think.
Yeah, they were the 12. Low. Yeah, but Alyssa Baker, Riley, I think Riley Kendall's still there for Marietta. I know Alyssa Baker's still there. Leah Lauer, a couple of players that can really do a lot of things. They were sophomores a year ago, juniors now. They've gotten off to a great start, and I think this is going to be. I think Fairland probably wins this pretty handily, but can Marietta slow the game down enough to make things difficult for Bailey Russell, Bree Allen, and
since it's on a college floor, should be a bigger floor, which, in all honesty, probably benefits Fairland a little bit. Especially just watching them last year, they like to run around.
Yes,
so I would think the bigger floor probably, but I don't know much about Marietta, so that could play to their advantage as well.
Yeah, but Fairland is very, not only are they very good, but they're very skilled as
athletic.
Well. So yeah.
All right, so we'll preview, I think, 3 other games, 2, 2.5. So 2 and then potentially one other. One we're planning on live streaming later this week is Jackson at Minford. The undefeated Iron Ladies head into Minford, who, as of now, I believe is 5-2. That was my preseason pick to win the SOC 2. That one's getting a little bit tight, as I think Portsmouth West has been a lot better than I thought they would, considering what they lost. But we'll hone in on this game and just talk about the players in this one. Obviously, earlier in the episode, we talked TJ Carpenter, what she's done for the Iron Ladies thus far, well over 20 points a game. You also have Maddie Walburn and Kinsey Davis, who are over 10 points a game, and both averaging right around 6 rebounds. That trio alone is averaging 18-plus rebounds a game, so they've been huge for them in all aspects of the game for the Iron Ladies. And then, for Minford, I mean, I know it was I think it was their first game of the season, but beat a Whiteoak team who we were just holding in pretty high regard. Lexi Conkle is a big piece for them. Marley Pendleton, another one. Kennedy Davis. I think Lindsay Williams is one as well. And I think Davis was the one that they didn't have last year. Was that who had the leg injury?
It was Davis, yeah.
They obviously get her back, which anytime you can add a piece that you can use is really beneficial for them. Man, I don't know. I think this, I don't want to call it a trap game because I feel like that may not be the exact terminology to use, but it's the last game for both teams before the new year. I think it could be one that maybe Jackson may overlook a little bit. The win over West earlier in the season, sort of. What did they win by, 2 in that?
No.
Did they hammer them?
Yeah.
Because I know they won.
Yeah, it was close to 20.
20. Okay,
yeah.
So a win like that over a league mate for Minford sort of is well, maybe not, but I mean that's why they call them trap games because it's one you might overlook. And I think this Minford team is talented. We'll be there to see it in person, hopefully.
Well, and then the other thing is if we're there to see it.
Jackson has a bad track record when we're around girls,
yes,
although boys hasn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if boys is funny either. Jackson does not do very well.
Yeah, so maybe that's why they may not want us there as much. But
it's at Minford though, so they may be like, come on,
So the big thing for Minford is they got to make some shots because if you Lindsey Williams with her size and skill set is a hard matchup for anybody, but you might be able to double down on her if you're not making your shots from the outside. You got to be able to handle the ball, limit turnovers, and like I said, make some shots. So if they can start making some shots, I think Minford's going to have a good chance in this. But if they're cold from the outside, then this could be a tough game for them scoring wise, because this Jackson team plays really good defense.
Well, and like that trio alone is averaging 45. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what Jackson is averaging a game, but I mean, I'd say it's probably 55-ish. I mean, you have your top three scorers averaging 45 just with those three. So they've been impressive. Minford has as well. Two teams atop of their respective conferences. I think it should be a fun game and a great way for us to sort of kick things off coming out of the holiday break.
Yeah, because we've only seen one girls' game so far, and it wasn't particularly close.
Yeah. So hopefully
this one will be
a little better, a little cleaner, hopefully.
Yeah, so we'll just kind of some other games of note to watch for this weekend. You have South Gallia at Waterford. Waterford, I don't think they're playing as well as typical, but
they're normally okay.
Yeah. So a couple state championships in the last decade. Jerry Close is one of the better coaches in the state of Ohio, and they're a team that's probably going to be district finals at the end of the year. Like, they're going to be good, and a couple losses, because I think they just lost to Feder Hocking the other day. Which is kind of surprising, but at the same time, I know Fed Hawk's pretty good in girls as well. But at Waterford, maybe some bad blood from South Gallia leaving the TBC Hocking. That's still a heck of a trip from South Gallia to Washington, like northern Washington County with Waterford. I think that could be a really interesting game to look for on Saturday. What were you going to say?
I don't know where Washington County is.
It's way over yonder. Nice. That's where Marietta is at.
It's like
and Warren. So it's
I don't even
like
know where,
very.
I don't even know where Warren is.
Very east.
East.
Wait.
I have a map right here.
Hold on. Yeah, it's over like yonder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe not that north. Maybe like here. But there's some weird noises coming from outside because we are in a town, so you never know what's going on.
We are in Waverly, which
yeah, you never know. And then a really interesting game, I think, is very likely to happen. North Adams and Peoples could match up for a third time on Saturday at Manchester in the Adams County holiday tournament that they run there, and it's always been kind of weird to me because you could realistically play each other 4 times this season because of the tournament, to play the holiday tournament with your league teams, but I mean, you're the 4 teams in one county, so you might as well play in that holiday classic. So the first 2 are really good games, so a third game on a neutral floor could be an interesting one to watch for. So make sure you follow the Norfolk Animal Clinic scoreboard page, which is updated sometimes.
I thought you were gonna say it gets updated very frequently.
Yeah, but with the results from the first day at Manchester to see if that matchup is on the docket for the finals.
Yeah, just check back like 4 days after the game would have been.
It might be.
It might be at that point.
It's like a newer Max Preps where probably getting stuff
less ads though.
Yes. Man, dude, Max Preps is miserable. Like, we're pulling up like roster schedules and whatnot throughout this, and constantly I'm seeing I had to have my computer on mute because if not, we're going to have 50,000 commercials playing from all of the ads that Max Preps has. Just put out an ad-free version. I'll pay $2 a month for it.
I won't.
I know you won't.
Give me the ads. Jesus, I'm not paying for that. Well, it's dude, I'll go to baseball.
Baseballreference.com is the best website ever without ads. It's borderline unusable with them.
Well, I'm just going along with paying for stuff. I'm not paying for Game Changer because half the teams.
I'm paying for it because I run a website that
Yeah, well,
and then I get yelled at about
because
it.
You only have
I get yelled at about how I run my website, that no one gives money to make it better. And
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I'm not gonna pay for, like, so you pay for Game Changer, and then like most of the teams you have to request it anyway.
Right.
So like for Max Preps, I'm not gonna pay for it just for half the teams to not even have rosters.
that's okay.
Or have stats.
I'm okay with that. That's
So it's with what you get, it's very deservingly free.
well, and then like I was just looking for one team stats, and it said team stats aren't listed. Then I pulled up a game preview, and it has their stats, so they hid them from public. I'm like,
On Max Preps?
yeah,
I didn't know you could do that.
I didn't know you could do that either.
I would like
I
take,
might go do that.
I would almost take pride in like accurately
Like actually putting your stuff
putting
up.
my stats out. I feel like
Yeah.
I would make. Now, obviously, we've talked about how the Shack does really good with that, and there are some other teams that do it as well, but a lot of teams don't. So,
Yeah, I mean, and it kind of goes to there was a coach in the SVC that used to not submit his baseball stats, and so the best team in the league wouldn't have their stats up, but you would see other teams and like, oh, I don't want teams to be able to scout from it. Like, if you scout from stats, you're a dummy. Yeah. Like, it's kind of like my theory on when you see a kid that turns the ball over or commits a foul, and then instead of looking to the bench at their coach, they look in the crowd, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to coach that kid.
Right.
Kind of like I don't want to deal with a coach that, tries to be secretive about everything, because sorry, your film's getting passed around like things that get passed around like a flyer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the most
PG.
PG thing. Yeah. So it's just like, it's better for the kids to have their stuff out there.
One thing I
think.
will say, I mean, just each week look at our athletes of the week and then go to their Max Preps. Like, usually, so what do? We do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we do 8. Like, we do 6 players of the week, and then we do like a senior spotlight and a performance thing or whatever. Like, out of those 8, I'd say any given week, like 5 to 6 are from teams who upload their stuff.
Yeah, because we want to be able to
So like
highlight kids.
Like, I was just looking at this week's. So Portsmouth, I'm pretty sure girls uploads their stuff. North Adams does. South Webster does. Chillicothe doesn't. Or Logan Elm doesn't. Uniota does. Piketon does. And Whiteoak does. So that's 6 of the 8.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, nobody's probably watching at this point, but uploading your stuff gives your kids a better chance to get selected. Now, our selection committee is...
We don't know. We don't know what the selection committee is.
It varies. I mean, it's hard to tell who's going to get picked for what each week, but I mean, just based on that, I mean, if you upload your stuff and make it readily available for whoever, Derek or whoever chooses to look at it, I mean, it's either going to be that or like for the two players that don't upload it. So like Chillicothe, Cooper Stone King, we had somebody at that game with Carson,
and like they'll send the stats in after the game.
Yeah, they may not or they may send them in, or like Nehemiah Wall, I'm not sure how he pronounces it, but I know one of his games this week, I think Brock was at. Yeah. So I mean, it's all 8 of 8. They either uploaded or we had a person at them. So.
Yeah, so like we at least have an idea. So like if someone says so and so, oh, they had a great game. Okay, well, that's hard to justify as a player of the week if there's no like statistical stuff behind it. So like I'll use Blake Fitch from Uniota yesterday against South Point. He had 12 points, 6 of 8 field goals. Okay, well you see that, and that makes it more impactful than if you just say, oh, he had a really solid game. He had 12 points. But that doesn't sound as solid as, shot 75% from the field. Like, by adding little things in there, it makes it, a little easier for our committee or whatever to choose.
For Derek at midnight the night before.
Like, we got to do this.
I got to figure out 8 things.
Yeah. But yeah,
we
so
had a pretty good list this week.
yeah, I thought this week was probably the best we've done. I mean, sometimes in the fall you get really good ones like later in the season once I think things are a little more established. But yeah, it's a not a perfect process, but it is what it is. And I don't know about you, but I'm ready for 2024.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is gonna be our last episode in 2023. Want to wish everybody happy holidays from everybody here at Southern Ohio Sports Authority, presented by Ohio Health,
and especially here at Overtime, presented by McDonald's.
There we go.
But have safe.
At this point,
have a fun and safe New Year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a little more accurate. Is by the time this comes out, I mean, some people might still be celebrating whatever on the 26th, which is when this will come out. But
Kwanzaa.
Or is that on the 26th?
And Boxing Day in Canada. I'm not 100% sure we have any Canadians that watch, but
hey, you never know. I mean,
hey. Yeah.
Hey. All right. Well, I think that'll just about do it for today's episode. Unless you have anything extra you want to add on. What's your favorite Christmas food? I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. My mom makes lasagna, but she makes it for everything, and it's so good.
Oh,
but
what's something she only makes for Thanksgiving?
So my sister actually has taken over my grandma's cheesecake recipe.
Okay,
and that's only on Thanksgiving and Christmas. So that's probably it. Because that reminds me of childhood memories past and whatnot. So what about you?
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know what food is like. I mean, we get ham. It's okay. Ham's not my favorite. Like, stuffing is probably my favorite food. I know that's kind of
which
a
is
Thanksgiving
hilarious
thing.
So that's my favorite thing is like people love stuffing and they have it
twice a year. I
year.
could eat stuffing literally every day, and I eat it 2 times a year. The stuffing probably Thanksgiving, Christmas. Like, if we don't have it on Christmas, I'll be upset, very upset.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we will, but I don't know. I don't think Christmas really has any, like, I feel like ham is kind of like the staple Christmas meat.
Because wasn't it Derek that made the hot take of
he liked ham. Or
no, it was turkey over ham for Thanksgiving. He was like, yeah.
I didn't even know that was
I didn't know it was a thing.
Eating ham.
Ham is Christmas.
I feel like, no, there are some other, like, meat. Like, if you eat turkey on Thanksgiving, whatever, duck. Like, some people do, like, the turducken thing, which I think is kind of weird, like, all in one. But it's got to be a bird, something on Thanksgiving. Then I feel like ham is sort of just, I don't know. I mean, I guess you can eat turkey on Christmas if you want, but
yeah. So I hope everyone's Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, has gone well. Or if you don't celebrate anything, I hope that's gone well too. I mean, there are people that don't.
break.
So,
just enjoy. Yeah,
just enjoy the break, and I hope you've been able to watch some movies like Die Hard and A Christmas Story and It's a Wonderful Life, and I know you don't. You don't like Christmas Vacation. I hate you so much for that. But
happy Festivus or whatever.
Yeah, Festivus for the rest of us. That might have been a couple days ago. We should have had that, the feats of strength and whatnot. So,
all right, well, watch some good Christmas movies, give some people some gifts, watch some good whatever other holiday movies there are.
Just enjoy some downtime.
Yeah, have some nice family time or alone time, whatever. Do whatever. Nice break.
Yeah.
But I think that'll do it for today's episode of SOSA Overtime, presented by McDonald's.